Have you ever stopped to wonder where our modern world truly comes from? When we think of great inventors, a few familiar names usually pop into our heads. We picture Thomas Edison perfecting the light bulb in his laboratory. We imagine Steve Jobs on a stage holding up the first iPhone. These figures have become modern myths, towering giants of innovation whose stories we tell over and over. They are the faces we associate with progress, the singular geniuses who seemingly conjured the future out of thin air. Their narratives are clean, simple, and inspiring, making it easy for us to digest the complex history of technology. This popular narrative, however, often simplifies a much messier and more interesting reality. The history of innovation is not a straight line drawn by a handful of famous men. Instead, it is a sprawling, interconnected web of ideas, built by countless individuals whose names have been lost to time. For every Edison, there were dozens of collaborators, assistants, and rivals whose contributions were just as critical. For every Jobs, there were teams of engineers and designers working behind the scenes, solving the thousands of tiny problems that make a revolutionary product possible. These unseen architects are the true foundation of our connected world. The truth is that major breakthroughs rarely emerge from a single mind. They are often the result of what is sometimes called the adjacent possible, where a new idea becomes achievable only because a whole network of other, smaller innovations has paved the way. Think of it like a coral reef. It is not built by one giant organism but by millions of tiny polyps, each adding its small, essential piece to a magnificent, sprawling structure. The story of progress is much the same. It is a collaborative effort, a slow accumulation of insights and happy accidents from people who often never sought the spotlight. Recognizing these hidden contributors does not diminish the achievements of figures like Edison or Jobs. Instead, it enriches our understanding of how change really happens. It forces us to look beyond the great man theory of history and appreciate the complex social nature of creativity. The world we inhabit today was not handed down to us by a few visionaries. It was painstakingly assembled piece by piece by a vast and often anonymous army of thinkers, tinkerers, and dreamers. Their stories are just as important, even if they never made it into the textbooks we read as children. Consider the device you are likely using to read this right now. It connects to the internet wirelessly, using technologies like Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. These systems rely on a principle called frequency hopping spread spectrum, a method for sending secure radio signals that can avoid interference or jamming. Most people would assume this technology was developed by military engineers in a top-secret lab, but one of its earliest and most important pioneers was not an engineer at all. She was one of the most glamorous movie stars of Hollywood's golden age, Hedy Lamarr. Lamarr was known publicly for her stunning beauty and roles in classic films, but privately, she possessed a brilliant, inventive mind. During World War II, she became deeply concerned about the threat of German U-boats sinking Allied ships carrying civilians. She learned that radio-controlled torpedoes were easily jammed by the enemy, who could simply find the guidance frequency and block it. Lamarr, working with her friend the composer George Antheil, came up with a revolutionary idea. What if the radio signal could jump from frequency to frequency in a synchronized pattern, making it impossible to track or jam? Their system used a mechanism inspired by player pianos, with two synchronized paper rolls dictating the rapid changes in frequency for both the transmitter and receiver. It was a concept far ahead of its time, a brilliant solution to a deadly problem. In 1942, they were granted a patent for their secret communication system. However, the US Navy was skeptical of an invention submitted by a movie star and a musician. The technology was deemed too complex to implement at the time, and their patent eventually expired without them ever earning a dollar from it. It was not until decades later, during the Cold War, that the military rediscovered and implemented Lamarr's concept, which became a foundational element of modern secure communications. Today, the principles behind her invention are embedded in billions of devices worldwide, from smartphones and GPS navigators to secure military radios. Hedy Lamarr, the Hollywood icon, was also a hidden architect of the digital age. Her story is a powerful reminder that genius can be found in the most unexpected places, often working silently on problems no one else has yet thought to solve. Before there were movies, before we could watch a slow-motion replay of a winning goal or a video of a cat on the internet, there was a fundamental question that puzzled scientists and artists alike. Does a horse lift all four hooves off the ground when it gallops? This might seem like a trivial question today, but in the 19th century it was a genuine mystery. The answer came not from a biologist or a physicist, but from a brilliant and eccentric photographer named Eadweard Muybridge, a man whose obsession with capturing movement would inadvertently lay the groundwork for the entire motion picture industry. In 1872, the former governor of California, Leland Stanford, a wealthy horse breeder, hired Muybridge to settle the debate. Muybridge spent years experimenting with photography, which was then a slow and cumbersome process. He knew that a single camera shutter was not fast enough to capture the horse's fleeting movements. So he devised an ingenious system. He set up a series of cameras, eventually 24 of them, along a racetrack. He then stretched thin tripwires across the track, each one connected to a camera's shutter. As the horse galloped past, its hooves would break the wires one by one, triggering the cameras to take a rapid sequence of still photographs. When Muybridge developed the plates, he had a series of images that froze the horse's motion, frame by frame. The photos proved once and for all that there is indeed a moment of unsupported transit when all four hooves are in the air. But Muybridge did not stop there. He wanted to bring his still images back to life, to recreate the motion he had so painstakingly dissected. He invented a device he called the zoopraxiscope, a precursor to the modern film projector. It used a rotating glass disc onto which he had painted silhouettes based on his photographs. When he spun the disc and shone a light through it, the images were projected onto a screen, creating a short, looping illusion of movement. For the first time, audiences could see a realistic depiction of a moving animal. Muybridge became famous for his motion studies, but his name is rarely mentioned alongside the Lumiere brothers or Thomas Edison as a father of cinema. Yet his work was the essential first step, the unseen innovation that made movies possible. The stories of Hedy Lamarr and Eadweard Muybridge are not just historical footnotes. They are powerful parables about the nature of innovation. They reveal a world teeming with hidden architects, people whose curiosity and drive have fundamentally shaped our lives, even if their names are not household words. Think of Mary Anderson, the inventor of the windshield wiper who got the idea on a snowy day in New York City. Or consider John Harrington, a godson of Queen Elizabeth I, who designed the first modern flushing toilet in 1596, only to be mocked for his seemingly frivolous invention. These individuals saw a problem in their world and felt an irresistible urge to solve it. They were driven not by a quest for fame or fortune, but by a desire to make things better, to fix a nagging inefficiency, or to answer a question that no one else was asking. Their contributions are all around us, embedded so deeply in the fabric of our daily lives that we have forgotten they were ever inventions at all. The car you drive, the bridge you cross, the software you use, all are built upon layers of forgotten ideas from forgotten innovators. Questioning the simple narratives of history allows us to see this richer, more complex picture. It encourages us to look for the collaborators, the assistants, and the unsung pioneers behind every great leap forward. When we celebrate a new technology, we should also think about the vast web of prior discoveries that made it possible. Progress is not a series of lightning strikes from a few geniuses, it is a slow rising tide, lifted by the contributions of thousands. Our world is built on the shoulders of giants, but many of those giants remain nameless. This perspective should also inspire us to look for the hidden genius in our own time, in our own communities. The next great idea might not come from a well-funded Silicon Valley startup. It might come from a teacher in a classroom, a mechanic in a garage, or a teenager in their bedroom. Innovation is a fundamentally human trait, a spark that can be found everywhere. By celebrating the unseen architects of the past, we can learn to better recognize and encourage the quiet innovators who are all around us, shaping the world of tomorrow.